Hey, everybody, welcome to the True Texas Real Estate Podcast, where we are talking about buying and selling Texas. I'm Marilee Brown, your co host with Empire Financial, and this is Linda Zimmerhansel with Zest Realty. Say hi, Linda.
Hey, so guys, we're trying to hit the really hot topics in real estate in Texas right now. So solar is a big one, and it's really complicated. So we've got an energy consultant here, Noah Masters. He's joining us. Introduce yourself, Noah, so everyone knows you are the go-to solar expert.
Yeah, my name is Noah Masters. I'm with South Texas Solar. I've been in the industry for 7 years and seen some changes and whatnot. But it's working with South Texas Solar Systems over the last 6 years. We pride ourselves on being honest and transparent about all the entire process. And so there's a lot of companies out there, a lot of companies that will mislead buyers and whatnot. So we want to be open and full disclosure on everything as far as when we're discussing solar with homeowners and whatnot.
Well, great. So why don't you start with that? Like when you sit down with people, what do you tell them about solar in a nutshell?
Well, yeah, typically it's answering questions and seeing what questions they have. There's more and more, especially here in San Antonio, a lot more people are more knowledgeable about solar, so don't have to go over the nuts and bolts and the tech, how it works. So basically asking a few questions like how long you plan on living in your house, and if there's going to be any changes as far as energy usage, and if you're going to expand have a pool or EV cars. Those are the two most common additions that increase electrical usage. So but typically we mostly talking to homeowners that have been in the house, so we know some usage history as far as how much energy is being consumed. And that's pretty much how we size the systems. And that can vary, from year to year if things change. But so it's about having those discussions for the long term of the project. But yeah, it's just I like to clarify everything with the customers just to make sure there's nothing left undiscussed.
So you're trying to meet their needs, in other words, like you're not, I mean, like my clients always go, well, how much are my bills going to be if I get solar? I mean, that's such an open question, right? But how do you,
Right.
so
Yeah, I get that a lot where people are like, well, how much does it cost? And it's like, well, it varies from home to home, and it doesn't necessarily mean the size of the home needs a bigger system because a lot of these new homes are so efficient. But it's really just looking at the electrical usage and then determining how much you want to offset that electrical bill. If we're able to get to a high offset, then that's really good. But it's not, any solar's good solar. So if they can only offset that usage by 50%, that's still value. That's still electrical savings that the homeowner is going to be able to pocket and generate savings. It's just the savings can be more if it's a bigger offset. But it also determines how long are they going to be in the house. So if the next homeowner may not need a giant system, and that could be a little overkill for the next homeowner. So it's we kind of have some base packages that we do, as far as like a 6 kilowatt size system, which is a relatively small, but that's going to still generate electrical savings. And for a couple of two, it's that could be perfect. But if
and
a
about
family,
what does that cost? What does that run people?
roughly 24,000 or so, somewhere in that range. It depends if it's financed or if we do discounted cash price. So it could range from 20 to 25, somewhere in that range. And there's different equipment. We're pretty agnostic as far as solar panels are concerned, as long as it's a tier 1 or above. Like these panels are going to produce what they're going to produce what they're supposed to. It's as long as it's a high quality, a brand that you can trust as far as the warranty. That's the big thing with solar panels. And solar panels have power output warranties, so you can know what the system will be producing over the course of its lifetime.
So how long does this solar panels last? If I was to, put put solar panels on my house right now. I mean, what's their, life expectancy?
Yeah, so most panels come with a 25 or a 30-year warranty, and that's a power output warranty. So like um, a friend of ours, Brian, he got panels on his roof. They're a premier brand panel, so they're producing at around 91% at year 25. So that's just minimal degradation over that first 25 years, and then after year 25, it stays on that slight degradation. So the warranty's expired after 25 years, but it's still going to be producing high energy. So yeah, 25 to 30 years is what's covered under the warranty, but they'll go for another 10, 15 years. It's just, if you want to upgrade that system after 25 years, it might make sense to replace what you have with the new technology 25 years from now, or you can just leave it up there, but yeah, there's lower end panels that are going to degrade a little bit quicker, because all panels degrade, but that's really the only big difference is the degradation over time.
So you were mentioning something when we were talking previously, if somebody is like, I have a buyer that's wanting to buy a house, and they decide they want to put solar panels in at the same time that they're buying. And I think you and I were discussing that they could just get a renovation loan that would cover the cost of those solar panels, and it would just kind of tack on to the cost of the house. You were telling me kind of a rule of thumb of how long they need to stay in that house in order to make that worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. It's being able to roll it into your mortgage is ideal. Then you just have one payment, it's paid cash, and that's you see the electrical savings immediately. So that's optimal. But yeah, if you're gonna, I typically say if you're gonna sell your house within the next 3 years, it may not be worth it to do, or it may not be worth to do a big system, because solar does add value to the home. There's studies done through the National Renewable Energy Lab.gov and U.S. Department of Energy that do show what the per kilowatt here in Texas adds about $3,000 of home value. So if you did a small system, 6 kilowatts, you can easily tack on 18,000 to the value of the home without risking losing out on that investment. But if it's a big system, roughly, I think you had mentioned there was one for 50,000. That could be a little harder to add the value onto the home, but it also is going to create electrical savings for that next homeowner. So just it is a tougher sell, but I think it's still doable. But it's that's not ideal though. Yeah.
So how big a system do you need to, sell energy back can you talk about that? Because people talk about all the time. Oh, I'm going to get solar and I'm going to sell it back to the energy company. Can you address that?
Yeah. So CPS does net energy metering, and it's designed to offset the usage for your particular home or business, not necessarily to sell money back or sell energy back to CPS, even though you kind of are, but you're not. It's basically with net metering, if you consume 1,000 months, or I'm sorry, if you consume 1,000 kilowatt hours that month, and your solar produces 1,000 kilowatt hours, then you don't have to pay anything for electricity charges to CPS other than your other fees, your connection fee and whatnot. But there's if you produce 3,000 kilowatt hours and only consume 1,000, then that extra 2,000 is just going to get sent to CPS at a fraction of a credit. So it's get like a couple of dollars for those extra 2,000 kilowatt hours. So it's not beneficial to oversize the system. But if you're basically covering 8 months or out of the year where you're net even or overproduce a little bit, then that's kind of how most homeowners' electric bills will end up looking after solar. Kind of eliminate the 8 lower months, and then the peak summer where it's really tough to offset all that usage. You're just cutting that electric bill down as much as you can. And so instead of paying a $500 electric bill in the summer, you're paying, $200 or $150, and then whatever you're paying for your solar, if you financed it or if you paid cash.
Sorry, I
Right.
got choked up there. This is such an emotional topic for me. So I have a question. So, okay, so you put solar on your house and something happens and you get transferred out, or you decide to, to move, and you're selling your house. How do you feel that, I mean, I've seen several things come through with people trying to buy houses that have existing solar on it. One, the solar panels are leased.
Mm-hmm.
Or two, they own the solar panels outright, so there's no lien on the house. But then there's the third, where they have a lien on the house, and the people are in a, I don't know what the typical solar financing is, but they're in a 15-year to pay off the solar panels. And so now you've got, I have a buyer that is all confused on, and probably not Linda, of course, but there may be some agents out there that, give us an overview of what we need to look for as realtors when we're showing a house that has, not we, but them, showing a house that has solar panels. What are the questions we need to ask?
Yeah, I would ask, if it's, financed, if they, so if you're talking about to the buyer, to the seller.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So I would ask, if it's financed, or if they paid cash, how they paid for the system. They want to reference their electrical bill, like see some, because the proof's in the pudding. If the solar is producing energy, it's saving them money. You can see what their electric bill was after solar and then before solar, kind of see the difference, and you could run some numbers to show the savings. For every system we sell, we always put together an analysis that shows the production throughout the for each year, but versus initially what the house is consuming to what the system will produce, and you can see
so the electrical reports that on way. That. So if I was to buy your solar panels right now and say 3 years I'm selling, there's a way to generate reports on what those solar panels have done?
Yeah, there's a really good free resource. It's pvwatts.com or .org. But basically you just put in the address and put in the size system, and it'll shoot out the production output, and then you just multiply that production output by the electrical rate, and that's how much electrical savings they're going to see per year. So that's one way. And then as I mentioned, with the study U.S. Department of Energy did, this was back early 2012 or something, but for every kilowatt of solar here in Texas is equal to $3,000 of home value. So that's kind of a rule of thumb I kind of go off of, where at least you can use that as a resource, and then compile that with the electrical savings over time. That's kind of where they get that number. But
our tricky challenge for that is that it has to appraise, and appraisers, there's no federal guideline yet on it.
Right.
So I've had $40,000 systems, given, and they're really, the federal guidelines are, if the system is not fully owned and paid for, the appraisers can't give them any value. So, which is tricky, that is a federal guideline. So, but appraisers, it's all over the gamut. I had a $40,000 system given that still they owed on it. It was financed, and they gave them $7,000 in value. The appraiser did. I've had another one that was also had, they were not leasing, they had a loan on it, and it was a $35,000 system. And that, I used all those statistics that you just talked about, and the appraiser gave it $35,000 in value. And then I've had them where they give them $0 in value. So that's our tricky place, is they're not new. So, but not like pools in Texas. That's an easy 10% value of the. So if it's a $600,000 house, they'll give 60 for the pool. They just don't do that. So it's tough for us. So and this is to that point, if we go to sell it, and that's a lien on the property. So does your company allow the buyers to adopt the loan on the panels, or can you transfer it to them? How does that work?
Yeah, so there are some finance companies. Most of them do allow the loan to transfer to the new homeowner. That's, then they assume the loan, and they have to qualify for past credit. But if they're buying the house, I'm sure they can pass credit. But that's the one hurdle. But then they can just take over the payments. But ideally, the seller would pay off the cost of the system, add that value to the home, and then the new homeowner just pays for the new cost of the home with the added value. So that's kind of the ideal scenario, but whenever it's a large sum of money, it's a little tough, But yeah, the loan can be transferred in some cases, and then the warranty is transferable to the new homeowner. So with like our companies, we do a 25-year panel guard protection plan. So that includes cleanings and a few and some maintenance checks, but that's just that transfers over to the new homeowner as well for like a small fee.
A big question I get is of course, where are they on the roof? So what happens when you need a new roof?
So we always recommend to tie it in with your homeowner's insurance just in case, because there's a lot of hailstorms that happen, and most of the time the panels are just fine. It's the roof that gets damaged. So yeah, we take down the panels and store them, and then reinstall once the roof is replaced. And there's a cost for that, but homeowners insurance will cover it if it's covered under your insurance. So it's definitely recommended.
What is the cost of that generally?
So we have a service team, and there's standardized pricing. So it's based off the size of the system. It's roughly 80 to 90 cents per watt of the system. So that can range, but the average, it's $7,000 to $10,000 based off the size of the system.
Yeah, I just got a quote for somebody on one, and it was 10. You're right on there.
Yeah, it's more than people think, and it is it's just time and labor and whatnot, and it's but yeah, we just have a kind of a.
So I had one client one time that and I don't remember what company, and he said, well, yeah, they promised me in my contract that they'd move the panels one time for me. So I'm going to sell this house and I'm going to buy another house. What is that really done? Like, he of course checked, and they had been sold, and then they, the new company didn't want to honor the contract, but I thought they promised that. That's expensive.
Yeah. No, I've worked with a guy that would he wasn't the best sell. He was a good salesman. He wasn't the most honorable person. So he would say stuff like that. Oh, we'll take them down. Well, just kind of speaking just to make the sale.
So it's not really done, right? I mean,
there's some companies that I've seen them offer it, but I don't think most of them. It's more just I don't think it's actually in the contract. I think it's mostly the salesman trying to make a sale. Yeah, exactly.
Empty promise. So, I know a lot of my clients just go, okay, well, on average, like how much is this going to save me by just putting an average system on, that, I pay off, and what is the typical time frame for financing?
So there's terms from 5 to 25 years. Obviously 25-year with the 4% interest rate, you'll get your lowest payment for the system. But the ROI typically is around 10 to 13 years from whenever you utilize what you invested, recoup in electrical savings. So then you generate it saves you money immediately by reducing your electric bill based off what the system is going to produce. And yeah, most people will opt for a longer term just to be in that money saving mode immediately, where they're paying quite a bit than their electric bill was. And then you can there's no prepayment penalty, so most homeowners will opt to pay it off sooner, but they like the flexibility of a low bill. But there's other options with low rates as well that are shorter term.
And does it, I mean, obviously then that your return on investment increases if you do the cash and get a discounted rate, correct?
Yeah, then whenever it's cash, it's usually 7 to 10 years is when you get your ROI, just because of the better cost, better deal in the system. Yeah.
Right. What are some of your best? I mean, do you recommend folks with pools, and now more people have electric cars? I mean, does it make more sense then to go solar with the cost of electricity increasing?
Yeah, definitely. It's the cost of electricity is only going to go up. So one of the big benefits of solar is that you're locking in your energy cost for pretty much for the life of your home, life you're going to be there. But if you have high usage with the pool, that always adds a couple hundred kilowatt hours a month, along with the EV charger, depending on how much you're charging your car. But it makes total sense with especially the way CPS does their net metering. It's like you're either going to pay them 14 cents a kilowatt hour for all that energy, or you own your energy and lock your price in, and there's a concrete end date, whether you finance it or you pay cash. But it's the sun's powerful. It's been a super hot summer, and it's we get a lot of sun down here in South Texas, so it's with that net metering program, it makes total sense to own it and create a lot of savings there.
What my clients asked me this weekend. I was like, oh, I'm going to know tomorrow the answer. So how does San Antonio rank nationally in terms of number of solar panels per capita, basically? On where do we rank?
Yeah, last time I checked, we were number 6. So we're up there. I think it goes back and forth between 6 and 7 every other year. Solar Power World is a good is the publication that does the rankings. But yeah, it's based off per capita, and so last time I checked, we were 6. Austin was 16, and some of the other big cities, Dallas and Houston, were coming up. But San Antonio has been an early adopter for solar through CPS because of their program that started in 2010, and they have a rebate or they had a rebate for residential that recently ended last year. But their rebate for commercial is still available, and that's pretty substantial. So yeah, so we do residential and commercial, and we're kind of pivoting toward more small commercial lately, just because there's so many incentives along with the CPS rebate. There's 40% tax credit. There's also some additional tax credits if you're in a low income community, or there's a few other things with the Inflation Reduction Act that make it more desirable for businesses. But it's still, even though it still makes a lot of sense for residential, it's just for businesses is even more.
I was unaware of that. That's really good information. Well,
we
could talk about this for a long time, but
yeah,
out of time, right, Marilee?
Yeah, Noah, thanks so much. Noah and I were in the same BNI group, a few years back, and just he was just so fascinating just to hear some of the things that he was doing, and now that I'm able to actually do loans where if somebody is buying a house and they want to add solar at the same time, we can put them in a renovation loan and cover the solar panels all in one loan, and just do one payment, which makes it pretty nifty.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect scenario, and that's then you eliminate the headaches down the road, and you're getting a better deal, and that's especially getting set up with a reputable company. We've been around 16 years, so a lot of the new homeowners will get door knocked by companies that have just been around for a year or two, and they're the ones making those false promises and whatnot. But yeah, no, definitely appreciate them.
Thanks, Noah. We're going to put your information below in the description of this podcast, and it's just so good to see you again. No, it's really great. And it's been sunny. So we know you're
Staying
you're
busy,
the guy.
yeah.
You're my guy. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
appreciate you, Marilee.
well, thanks
been
so much.
tremendous.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.